The conference room was too cold. Captain Kyle Bennett shifted in his seat and tried not to show his discomfort. Around the large table sat representatives from 12 different alien species, each one more impressive than the last. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few looked like they were made of living crystal. Kyle was the only human in the room. He had been negotiating with the Jara Empire for 3 months now. The Jara were tall reptilian creatures with dark green scales and golden eyes that never seemed to blink. Their ambassador, Lord Dax, sat across from Kyle with a smile that showed too many teeth. Humanity had only joined the Galactic Council 2 years ago. Before that, humans did not even know aliens existed. Now Kyle was trying to secure a trade agreement that would give Earth access to advanced medical technology. The other species did not take humans seriously. They called humans primitive. They said humans were too young, too emotional, too weak. Lord Dax stood up, his long tail swishing behind him. He spoke in a voice that echoed through the chamber. Captain Bennett, the Jara Empire has considered your proposal. We are willing to agree to your terms, but we require something in return. To seal this agreement, we propose a marriage alliance. Kyle felt his stomach drop. Marriage alliances were common in galactic politics, but he had not expected this. Several other ambassadors leaned forward with interest. This was clearly going to be entertaining. We offer Princess Kira, daughter of Emperor Voss, to join with you in marriage, Lord Dax continued. His smile grew wider. Around the table, a few aliens made sounds that might have been laughter. Kyle knew immediately that something was wrong. The way Lord Dax said it, the way the others reacted. This was not an honor. This was an insult. But he kept his face neutral and asked, "May I know more about Princess Kira?" Lord Dax waved one clawed hand dismissively. "She is young, adequately educated, and of royal blood. What more do you need to know? Unless the great human empire finds even this beneath them?" The trap was obvious. If Kyle refused, he would insult the Jara and lose the trade deal. If he accepted, he would be accepting whatever damaged goods they were trying to pass off. Kyle thought quickly. He had learned something important during his military service. Sometimes the best response to an insult was to act like you did not notice it. The Earth Federation accepts this generous offer, Kyle said calmly. We are honored that the Jara Empire would strengthen our alliance through marriage. The room went quiet. Lord Dax had clearly expected Kyle to refuse or at least to protest. Instead, Kyle was treating the insult as a genuine honor. The other ambassadors looked confused. A few seemed almost impressed. Lord Dax recovered quickly. Excellent. The ceremony will be held in 1 week on the neutral station. You may meet the princess then. Kyle returned to his quarters after the meeting. His assistant, Commander Jake Foster, was waiting for him with a datapad. Sir, I did some research on Princess Kira, Jake said quietly. The news is not good. She was declared barren 5 years ago after a childhood illness. In Jara culture, that makes her worthless for marriage. No other species would accept her because cross-species reproduction is impossible anyway. They are literally giving you their most useless princess. Kyle sat down heavily. So this is their way of saying humans are worth less than nothing? Yes, sir. You could still back out. Claim you were not given full information. No, Kyle said firmly. If I back out now, we lose everything. Besides, this princess did not choose to be used as an insult. She deserves better than that. The wedding ceremony took place on Star Station Harmony, a massive structure that floated in neutral space. The hall was decorated in both Jara and human styles, though the Jara decorations were far more impressive. Hundreds of guests attended, most of them alien dignitaries who came to witness what they thought would be a humiliation. Kyle stood at the altar in his formal uniform. He watched as Princess Kira entered the hall. She was tall and graceful, with emerald green scales that caught the light. She wore elaborate robes in deep purple and gold. Her face was beautiful by any standard, with high cheekbones and large golden eyes. But those eyes were filled with shame and anger. As she walked toward him, Kyle could see her trembling slightly. She kept her head high, but he recognized that look. He had worn it himself once, years ago, when he had been dishonorably discharged from the military for refusing an illegal order. That look of someone trying to maintain dignity while their world fell apart. The ceremony was brief and formal. They spoke the required words, translated by computer. When it came time to join hands, Kyle took Kira's hand gently. Her scales were smooth and cool against his skin. She flinched slightly but did not pull away. I am sorry this is happening to you, Kyle whispered in English, knowing the translator would convert his words. But I promise I will treat you with respect." Kira looked at him with surprise. It was probably the first kind thing anyone had said to her in a long time. She said nothing in response, but something in her expression softened slightly. The reception was worse than the ceremony. Guests made barely concealed jokes about the match. Kyle heard one ambassador say loudly, "Well, at least the humans got what they deserve." Another laughed and said, "A barren princess for a barren future." Kyle ignored them all. He stayed close to Kira, trying to shield her from the worst of it. She stood rigid beside him, her face a mask of royal composure, but he noticed her hands were clenched into fists. When they finally escaped to the shuttle that would take them to Earth, Kira spoke for the first time since the ceremony. "Why did you accept?" she asked. Her voice was rough, as if she was fighting back tears. "You must know what I am. What they think of me. Of us both." Kyle looked at her carefully before answering. "I know what they think, but I also know that other people's opinions do not define worth. You are a princess of the Jara Empire, educated and intelligent. That has value no matter what anyone says about children." Kira stared at him for a long moment. Then she turned away to look out the shuttle window at the stars. "You are either very kind or very foolish, Captain Bennett." "Probably both," Kyle admitted. "But I meant what I said at the ceremony. You will be treated with respect in my home. That is a promise." Kira did not respond, but Kyle thought he saw her reflection in the window shift slightly, as if she was trying very hard not to cry. As the shuttle jumped to faster-than-light speed heading toward Earth, Kyle wondered what he had really gotten himself into. He had accepted this marriage to save a political deal and to show strength in the face of an insult. But looking at Kira now, alone and hurting, he realized he had also accepted responsibility for another person's well-being. He could only hope he was equal to the task. Kira stood on the balcony of Kyle's home and stared at the ocean. She had never seen so much water in one place. On her home world, water was precious and carefully controlled. Here on Earth, it stretched endlessly toward the horizon, blue and alive with waves that crashed against the rocks below. The house itself confused her. It was small compared to the palaces she knew. Only 2 floors made of wood and glass nestled among tall trees. Kyle called the area the Pacific Northwest. He said the trees were called Douglas firs and they were hundreds of years old. Kira found that impressive. On Jara, ancient things were valued, but she was not here to admire trees or oceans. She was here because her family had thrown her away like garbage, because she was broken, barren, useless. The humans did not know it yet, but they had been cheated, given a princess with no value at all. "The view is beautiful, is it not?" Kyle asked from behind her. Kira had not heard him approach. She stiffened. "It is adequate," she said coldly. Kyle did not seem offended. He simply nodded and set down a tray on the small table nearby. "I brought you something to eat. I was not sure what you would like, so I made several different dishes." Kira glanced at the food. It looked strange and smelled even stranger. "I'm not hungry." "You have not eaten since we arrived yesterday," Kyle said gently. "You need to eat something." "I said I am not hungry." Her voice was sharper this time. She wanted him to leave her alone. She wanted everyone to leave her alone. Kyle was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "All right, I will leave the food here in case you change your mind. If you need anything, I will be in the study downstairs." He walked away without another word. Kira felt a strange twist in her chest. She had expected him to argue or command her to eat. That was what Jara males did. But Kyle just accepted her refusal and left. She did not know what to make of it. The first week was difficult. Kira spent most of her time in her room. She had her own space, which surprised her. She had expected Kyle to demand his rights as a husband, but he gave her a bedroom of her own and never tried to enter it. He knocked before speaking to her. He asked permission before coming near her. It was all very strange. On the 8th day, there was a knock on her door. Kira opened it expecting to see Kyle, but instead found a human woman with dark hair and warm brown eyes. She wore casual clothes and carried a bag. "Hi, I am Lisa Morgan," the woman said cheerfully. "I am Kyle's friend from childhood. I am also a xenobiologist, which means I study alien life forms. I hope you do not mind me visiting. I brought some books about Earth biology that I thought might interest you." Kira blinked. The woman was so casual, so friendly. She did not act like she was in the presence of royalty. She acted like they were equals. "Why would I be interested in Earth biology?" Lisa shrugged. I thought you might want to understand your new home. Plus, I am curious about gerobiology. Maybe we could exchange information? I love learning about different species. Before Kira could refuse, Lisa was already sitting down and pulling books from her bag. She started talking about Earth's evolutionary history, about how life began in the oceans and spread to land. She talked about diversity and adaptation. She asked questions about Jara with genuine curiosity, not judgment. Despite herself, Kira found the conversation interesting. Lisa did not treat her like a political pawn or a broken princess. She treated her like an intelligent person worth talking to. It had been a long time since anyone had done that. Lisa started visiting every few days. She brought books, showed videos of Earth's animals and plants, and told funny stories about her research adventures. Slowly, Kira began to look forward to these visits. Lisa became her first real friend on Earth. One evening, Kira came downstairs and heard music. It was unlike anything she had heard before. Soft and flowing with emotions she could not name, she followed the sound to a room where Kyle sat at a large wooden instrument with black and white keys. His fingers moved across the keys, creating the beautiful sounds. Kyle noticed her in the doorway and stopped playing. "Sorry, did I disturb you?" "No," Kira said. She hesitated, then asked, "What is that?" "A piano. It is a musical instrument." "Do you have music on Jara?" "We have ceremonial chants and battle songs," Kira said, "but nothing like this." "This is different. Would you like to learn?" Kyle offered. "It is not difficult to start. I could teach you the basics." Kira almost refused. But something about the music called to her. Something about the way it made her feel. "Yes," she said quietly. "I would like that." So began their evening lessons. Kyle taught her simple songs, showing her where to place her fingers on the keys. Her hands were larger than his and her fingers were longer, but she learned quickly. The piano did not care that she was barren or that she had been given away as an insult. It only cared about the music she could create. As the weeks passed, Kira found herself spending more time with Kyle. They would practice piano together in the evenings. Sometimes they would walk along the beach and Kyle would tell her about Earth's history and cultures. He never pressured her to talk about herself, but eventually, she began to share small things. Her favorite foods from home, her memories of childhood before the illness, her love of mathematics and star charts. One night, after a particularly difficult piece of music, Kira finally asked the question that had been bothering her. "Why are you being so kind to me? You know what I am. You know why they gave me to you." Kyle was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Can I tell you something about myself?" Kira nodded. 10 years ago, I was a military officer. I was good at my job and I had a bright future. Then my commanding officer ordered me to fire on a civilian target. I refused. I was court-martialed and dishonorably discharged. For 5 years, I was nobody. People treated me like I was worthless. My own family stopped talking to me. Kira stared at him. She had not known any of this. Kyle continued. Eventually, the truth came out. My commanding officer had been corrupt and I had been right to refuse. I was cleared and given my rank back. But those 5 years taught me something important. Other people's judgment does not define your worth. You define your own worth by how you treat others and how you face hardship. He turned to look at her directly. You are not worthless, Kira. You are intelligent, talented, and stronger than you know. What the Jara think about children does not change that. Kira felt tears sting her eyes. No one had ever said anything like that to her. Not since the diagnosis. She had been so certain that she was broken, useless, a failure to her family and her people. But Kyle did not see her that way. He saw something else. Something more. "Thank you," she whispered. It was the first truly genuine thing she had said to him since they met. Kyle smiled. It was a warm, honest smile. "You are welcome. Now shall we try that difficult section again? I think you almost had it." They returned to the piano, but something had changed. The wall between them had cracked. As Kira played, she realized she was no longer just going through motions. She was actually starting to live again, and for the first time since the diagnosis, she felt a tiny flicker of hope. 6 months had passed since Kira arrived on Earth. Her life had changed in ways she never expected. She and Kyle had grown close, not just as husband and wife in name, but as true partners. They spent their evenings playing piano together. They walked on the beach and talked about everything from philosophy to the stars. And somewhere along the way, friendship had deepened into love. Kira had finally allowed herself to be happy. She had stopped thinking of herself as the broken princess who had been thrown away. Kyle had taught her to see herself differently. Lisa had shown her that there was more to life than what her culture demanded. Earth had become home. Then the symptoms started. At first, Kira thought she was just tired. She had been helping Lisa with research projects and perhaps she had worked too hard. But the fatigue did not go away. Then came the nausea, especially in the mornings. Her sense of smell became stronger, making certain foods unbearable. Her scales, normally a steady emerald green, began to show hints of gold at the edges. Kira was terrified. She was convinced she had caught some human disease. Kyle immediately contacted Lisa, who arrived within the hour with her medical equipment. Lisa ran scan after scan. She took blood samples and tissue samples. She checked Kira's vital signs 3 times. Kyle paced the room nervously while Kira sat very still, trying not to panic. Finally, Lisa set down her scanner. She looked at Kira with an expression of complete shock. "Kira," she said slowly, "you are not sick. You are pregnant." The room went silent. Kira stared at Lisa. Then she started to laugh, but it came out harsh and broken. "That is not possible," she said. "I am Barren. I have been barren since I was 12 years old." The finest doctors on Jara confirmed it. "It is why I was sent away." Lisa shook her head. "I have run the tests 5 times. There is absolutely no doubt. You are approximately 8 weeks pregnant and the baby is healthy." Kyle sat down heavily. "But how? Cross-species reproduction is supposed to be impossible. Every scientific study says so." "I do not know," Lisa admitted, "but I need to study this. With your permission, I would like to run more tests and bring in my colleague, Dr. Eric Chen. This is not just about you two anymore. This could change everything we know about biology." Kira could not speak. She felt like her entire understanding of reality had shattered. For 14 years, she had believed she was broken. She had accepted that she would never have children. She had built her identity around that absence. And now Lisa was telling her it had all been wrong? Kyle moved to her side and took her hand. "Are you all right?" Kira looked at him. She saw concern in his eyes and love and wonder. "I do not know," she whispered. "I do not know what I am." Over the next few weeks, Lisa and Dr. Eric Chen worked frantically to understand what had happened. They set up a small research lab in Kyle's home to keep everything private. They ran genetic tests, created models, studied every aspect of both human and Jara biology. Dr. Chen was a quiet man with gray hair and gentle hands. He had spent 30 years studying xenobiology. He treated Kira with great respect and explained everything he was doing. Slowly, Kira began to trust him. One evening, Lisa and Eric came to the living room where Kyle and Kira were waiting. Both scientists looked exhausted but excited. "We think we understand what happened," Lisa said. She pulled up a holographic display showing strands of DNA. "This is human genetic code, and this is Jara genetic code. They should not be compatible at all. The basic building blocks are similar, but the way they function is completely different." Eric took over. "But humans have something unique. Your species evolved very quickly compared to most species in the galaxy. You developed on a planet with extreme environmental changes, ice ages, meteor impacts, massive climate shifts. To survive, humans became genetic generalists." "What does that mean?" Kyle asked. "It means humans have kept a lot of genetic flexibility that other species lost millions of years ago," Lisa explained. "Most alien species evolved on stable worlds. Their genetics became specialized and rigid. But humans can still produce a wide range of proteins and enzymes. Your DNA has what we call adapter sequences." Eric nodded enthusiastically. "When human and Jara genetic material came together, the human adapter sequences created a bridge. They modified themselves to interface with Jara DNA. It is like your body built a translator on the fly. The result is a hybrid genome that takes instructions from both parents." Kira looked at the holographic display, trying to understand. "So the baby has both human and Jara DNA?" "Yes," Lisa said. "And as far as we can tell, she is completely healthy. The human genetic flexibility solved problems that would normally make cross-species reproduction impossible." Kyle leaned forward. "What are the implications of this? For humanity, I mean." Eric and Lisa exchanged glances. Eric spoke carefully. "If this works with Jara, it might work with other species too. We would need to test it, but theoretically, humans might have reproductive compatibility with multiple alien species. Maybe not all of them, but more than anyone thought possible." Lisa added, "This changes everything. The Galactic Council has always seen humans as primitive newcomers, but this makes humans biologically unique, valuable. There are species on the Council who have been struggling with declining birth rates for centuries. If humans can help solve that problem through hybrid offspring, then suddenly humanity becomes one of the most important species in the galaxy. Kira felt overwhelmed. She was carrying not just a child, but proof that could change political and biological understanding across the galaxy. She thought about her father, Emperor Voss and Lord Dax, who had mockingly given her away. They thought they were disposing of worthless goods. Instead, they had accidentally created something revolutionary. Kyle squeezed her hand. What do you want to do? This is your decision, Kira. We can keep this private if you want, or we can announce it. Either way, I support you. Kira thought for a long moment. Part of her wanted to hide, to protect herself and her child from the political storm that would surely come. But another part of her, the part that Kyle had helped her find, wanted something different. She wanted to go home, not as the broken princess who had been thrown away, but as someone who had discovered her own worth. I want to wait, she said finally. I want to have the baby here, safely, away from politics and pressure. But after she is born, I want to return to the Jara Empire. I want to stand before the Galactic Council and show them what they missed. I want them to see that what they thought was weakness was actually strength. Lisa smiled. That sounds perfect. We will keep researching in secret. By the time you are ready to go back, we will have comprehensive data to support what happened. They will not be able to deny it. Over the following months, Kira's pregnancy progressed normally. The baby was healthy and growing well. Kira found the experience strange and wonderful. She was doing something she had been told her entire life was impossible. Every day she felt the baby move inside her was a small miracle. Kyle was endlessly supportive. He read every book about pregnancy he could find. He made sure Kira was comfortable. He stayed up with her when she could not sleep. And he talked to the baby, telling her stories about Earth and Jara, about her mother's strength and courage. 9 months after that first shocking diagnosis, Kira gave birth to a healthy baby girl. They named her Maya, which meant illusion in an ancient human language, because her very existence had proven that what everyone believed to be true was an illusion. Maya had her mother's elegant features and scaled skin, but the scales had a warm golden tone instead of pure green. She had her father's brown eyes and his curious expression. She was perfect and she was impossible, and she was proof that the galaxy's understanding of life itself was incomplete. As Kira held her daughter for the first time, she felt something she had not felt in 14 years. She felt complete, not because of the baby, but because she had finally accepted herself. The child was just the beautiful, unexpected result of that acceptance. Kyle sat beside them, his arm around Kira's shoulders. Are you ready? He asked quietly. Ready to go back? Kira looked down at Maya, then up at Kyle. She thought about the journey ahead, about facing her father and Lord Dax and the entire Galactic Council. She thought about the political storm that would come. But she also thought about what this meant for the future, for humanity, and for all the species who had dismissed them. Yes, she said. I am ready. It is time to show them what they threw away. The human diplomatic ship approached the Galactic Council station slowly. Kira stood at the viewing window holding Maya in her arms. The baby was 3 months old now, healthy and alert. She looked around with her big brown eyes, taking in the stars and the massive station ahead. Kyle stood beside Kira, dressed in his formal diplomatic uniform. Behind them were Lisa and Eric, carrying data pads with months of research. Also with them was Ambassador Rachel Torres, humanity's senior representative to the Council. Rachel was a sharp woman in her 50s who had immediately understood the importance of what they had discovered. Are you nervous? Kyle asked quietly. Kira nodded. Of course, but I am also angry. They threw me away like I was nothing. They used me to insult you and humanity. Now they will learn the truth. Rachel stepped forward. I have arranged for you to address the full council assembly. Every species will be there. Your father has been notified that you are coming, though we did not tell him why. Lord Dax will also be present. Good, Kira said firmly. She looked down at Maya, who had fallen asleep against her chest. Her daughter was the proof that would change everything. She was evidence that the galaxy's understanding of biology and of humanity's place was completely wrong. The ship docked at the station. As they walked through the corridors toward the council chamber, other aliens stopped to stare. Kira had not been seen in public since the wedding. Many had assumed she was hiding in shame on Earth. Instead, she walked with her head high, carrying a baby that should not exist. Whispers followed them. Some aliens recognized Maya's mixed features immediately. Others did not understand what they were seeing. But everyone sensed that something important was happening. The council chamber was enormous. Representatives from over 50 species sat in tiered seats that rose in a circle around a central platform. At the highest level sat the senior members, including Emperor Voss of the Jara Empire. Lord Dax sat near him, looking bored. When Kira entered with Maya in her arms, the chamber went silent. Emperor Voss sat up straight, his golden eyes widening. Lord Dax's bored expression vanished, replaced by confusion. Rachel Torres stepped to the platform. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," she began, her voice amplified through the chamber. "We have requested this assembly to present findings that will require the Council to reconsider long-held beliefs about biology and about humanity's role in the galactic community." A representative from the Vrax Collective, Ambassador Nicole Hayes, spoke up. "We were told this was urgent. What is so important that you interrupt council business?" Rachel gestured to Kira. "Princess Kira of the Jara Empire will explain." Kira walked to the center of the platform. She had prepared for this moment for months. She looked up at her father, at Lord Dax, at all the representatives who had laughed at her wedding or dismissed humans as primitive. 9 months ago, she began, her voice steady, I was given to Captain Kyle Bennett of Earth in what was meant as an insult. The Jara Empire offered me as a bride because I was barren and therefore worthless. The message was clear. Humans deserved no better than a defective princess. Lord Dax shifted uncomfortably. Several council members looked away. They all remembered. But something unexpected happened, Kira continued. Captain Bennett treated me with kindness and respect. He and his people showed me that worth is not determined by the ability to reproduce. They helped me see that I had value as a person, not just as a vessel for children. She paused, then lifted Maya higher so everyone could see her clearly. And then, despite everything the finest Jara physician said, despite all of galactic science insisting it was impossible, I became pregnant. This is my daughter, Maya. She is 3 months old. She is healthy. And she is living proof that cross-species reproduction is possible. The chamber exploded in noise. Aliens shouted in multiple languages. Some jumped to their feet. Emperor Voss stared at Maya with his mouth open. Lord Dax looked like he might be sick. Impossible, someone shouted. This must be a trick. It is no trick. Lisa stepped forward with Eric beside her. We are Dr. Lisa Morgan and Dr. Eric Chen, xenobiologists from Earth. We have spent the last 9 months studying this pregnancy in detail. We have comprehensive genetic data, medical scans, and developmental records. The child is genuinely a hybrid of human and Jara DNA. Eric brought up holographic displays showing DNA sequences and genetic models. The key is human genetic flexibility, he explained. Humans evolved under conditions that kept their DNA adaptable. They have what we call adapter sequences that can interface with alien genetic material. This makes humans potentially compatible with multiple species, not just Jara. The implications hit the chamber like a shockwave. Species that had been struggling with declining populations leaned forward with sudden interest. Races that had dismissed humans now looked at the small delegation with new eyes. Ambassador Nicole Hayes of the Vrax Collective stood. Her people had been facing a population crisis for decades. If this is true, she said carefully, then humans are not primitive newcomers. They are a biological key that could help multiple species survive. We would be very interested in collaborative research. Councillor Ryan Torres from the Keldari Union nodded, as would we. The Keldari have been at risk of extinction for 3 generations. If human genetic compatibility could offer a solution, it would change everything. Other voices joined in. Species after species expressed interest. The political dynamic shifted visibly. Humans had gone from being barely tolerated newcomers to the most sought-after allies in the chamber. Emperor Voss finally stood. The chamber quieted. The Jara Emperor was old and proud, but he was also smart enough to recognize when the situation had changed completely. He looked at Kira and Maya for a long moment. Then he spoke. Princess Kira, I owe you an apology. I allowed my species' prejudices to blind me to your worth. I sent you away as if you were defective. I used you to insult a species I thought was beneath us." His voice grew stronger. "I was wrong. You have brought more honor to the Jara Empire than any of my other children. You have formed a bridge between our species and humanity. And in doing so, you have revealed a truth that the galaxy desperately needed to learn." He turned to Kyle and bowed slightly, which was almost unheard of for a Jara Emperor. "Captain Bennett, I apologize to you and to humanity. The insult that was offered at your wedding was meant to diminish you. Instead, you showed wisdom and compassion that my people failed to demonstrate. You saw worth where we saw only shame." Kyle inclined his head respectfully. "Thank you, Emperor Voss. We all have much to learn from each other." Emperor Voss looked at Lord Dax. The ambassador had gone very pale. "Lord Dax," the Emperor said coldly, "your actions were meant to humiliate humanity and dispose of my daughter. Instead, you have embarrassed the Jara Empire and revealed your own blindness. You are stripped of your position effective immediately. You will be reassigned to a research outpost on the Outer Rim, where perhaps you will learn humility." Lord Dax said nothing. He could not argue. His cruel joke had backfired in the most spectacular way possible. The council head, an ancient being from the first species, raised one crystalline hand for silence. "This discovery requires careful consideration," she said. "We must establish protocols for research, for cooperation, for protecting hybrid offspring. But one thing is clear. Humanity must be granted full voting rights and elevated to senior member status immediately." The vote was unanimous. Not a single council member opposed it. Humanity had arrived at the galactic table not through conquest or wealth, but through biology and through the kindness that Kyle had shown to a princess everyone else had discarded. After the assembly, Kira stood with her father in a private room. Maya had woken up and was looking around with curiosity. Emperor Voss stared at his granddaughter with wonder. "May I?" he asked quietly. Kira hesitated, then carefully handed Maya to him. The old emperor held his granddaughter with surprising gentleness. Maya grabbed one of his fingers with her tiny hand and made a small sound. "She has your eyes," he said softly, "and your mother's determination, I think. She will be extraordinary." "Yes," Kira said, "she will. And she will grow up knowing she is valued for who she is, not for what others expect her to be." Emperor Voss looked at his daughter. "I cannot undo the past, Kira, but I would like to be part of your future and Maya's if you will allow it." Kira thought for a moment. Then she nodded. "Yes, but on my terms. Maya will be raised to respect both her heritages. She will learn that strength comes from many forms, not just from tradition and power." "I understand," Emperor Voss said. "And I agree. Perhaps she will teach us all something important." That evening, as their ship prepared to return to Earth, Kira stood with Kyle on the observation deck. Maya was asleep in a carrier on Kira's chest. Through the window, they could see the council station growing smaller. "We did it," Kyle said quietly. "We changed everything," Kira leaned against him. "No, you did it. You saw worth where others saw only shame. You gave me the chance to discover who I really was. Everything else followed from that." Kyle smiled and kissed the top of her head. "We did it together. That is what partnership means." As the ship jumped to faster-than-light speed heading home to Earth, Kira realized that was the truth. They had faced this journey together, and whatever came next, they would face that together too. 2 years had passed since Maya's presentation to the Galactic Council. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Earth, once viewed as a minor member of the galactic community, had become one of the most important centers of scientific and diplomatic activity. The Unity Project, as it was officially called, had established its headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland. Scientists from 23 different species worked together in the massive research complex. Dr. Lisa Morgan served as the project director, with Dr. Eric Chen as her deputy. Their mission was to study human genetic compatibility with other species and to help couples who wanted to have hybrid children. The results had been remarkable. In 2 years, 17 more hybrid children had been born. Humans had proven compatible with 6 different species, though the degree of compatibility varied. Each birth was carefully monitored and celebrated. Each child was proof that the galaxy's old certainties about biology were wrong. Kyle stood in the council chamber, now wearing the formal robes of humanity's chief ambassador. He had been promoted to the position 6 months after Maya's presentation. The man who had once been dishonorably discharged now represented his entire species at the highest levels of galactic governance. Today's council session was important. Several trade agreements were being finalized. The Vrax Collective had offered Earth exclusive mining rights in their star system in exchange for access to the Unity Project's research. The Keldari Union had proposed a cultural exchange program that would send teachers and artists between their worlds and Earth. Even the Jara Empire had completely reversed its position. Emperor Voss had personally negotiated a comprehensive alliance with humanity. The two species now collaborated on everything from military defense to scientific research. Lord Dax's insult had become the foundation of one of the strongest partnerships in the galaxy. As the council session ended, Kyle found himself approached by Ambassador Nicole Hayes of the Vrax Collective. She was a tall woman with blue skin and silver eyes. Over the past 2 years, she had become one of humanity's strongest allies. Ambassador Bennett, she said warmly, I wanted to tell you personally. The first Vrax human child was born this morning. A healthy boy. His parents are overjoyed, Kyle smiled. That is wonderful news. Please send them my congratulations, I will. Nicole paused, then added, 2 years ago my people were facing extinction. We had accepted that our species would slowly fade away. Now we have hope. All because you showed kindness to a princess who had been thrown away. The universe works in strange ways. Kyle thought about that night at the wedding, when he had decided to accept the insult with grace rather than anger. It had seemed like a small choice at the time. Now it had changed the fate of multiple species. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness have the biggest consequences, he said. After leaving the council chamber, Kyle took a transport shuttle to the residential sector. He and Kira now maintained homes both on Earth and on the council station. Their role required constant travel between worlds, but they managed to make it work. He found Kira in the garden behind their station residence. She was watching Maya and 3 other hybrid children play together. Maya was now 2.5 years old. She ran around the garden with the other children, laughing and chattering in a mix of human and Jara languages. Kira had changed dramatically in 2 years. She no longer carried herself like someone who had been discarded. Instead, she moved with confidence and purpose. She had become Princess of 2 Worlds, as her new title proclaimed, and Ambassador of Unity. She worked tirelessly to help other mixed families navigate the challenges she had faced. She had also founded the first Children's Foundation, an organization that supported hybrid families and funded research into mixed species biology. The foundation had offices on 12 different worlds and was expanding rapidly. Every parent who feared that their mixed child would face discrimination, every couple who wanted to have a hybrid baby but worried about medical complications, all of them could turn to the foundation for help. Kyle sat down beside Kira on the bench. She leaned against him and they watched the children play in comfortable silence. Do you ever think about how it started? Kyle asked. That wedding ceremony where everyone was laughing at us? Kira smiled. All the time. I was so angry that day. I thought my life was over. I thought I was worthless. She looked at Maya, who was showing another child how to climb a tree. But I was wrong. My life had not ended. It was about to begin. Kyle squeezed her hand. I have been thinking about what Ambassador Hayes said, about how a small act of kindness changed everything. I wonder if that is humanity's real gift to the galaxy. Not just the genetic flexibility, but the willingness to see value where others do not. Kira considered this. Most species in the Council are ancient. They have traditions that go back millions of years. Those traditions give them strength, but they also make them rigid. They cannot imagine doing things differently. But humans are young. You have not had time to become set in your ways. You still see possibilities where others see only limitations. That is what saved me, she continued. Everyone else looked at me and saw a barren princess, useless, defective. But you looked at me and saw a person, someone intelligent and capable and worth knowing. That simple difference in perspective changed everything. The next day there was a special council session. Counselor Ashley Martinez, a human representative who had recently joined the senior council, was scheduled to give a major speech about humanity's role in the galactic community. Kyle and Kira attended, sitting in the diplomatic gallery with Maya between them. Ashley was a brilliant speaker, passionate and articulate. She stood at the central platform and addressed the full assembly. 2 years ago, she began, humanity was barely tolerated in this council. We were seen as primitive newcomers who had stumbled into the galaxy by accident. Our technology was inferior. Our understanding of science was basic. Our cultures were young and chaotic. She paused, letting the words sink in. And you were right. We were all of those things. We still are in many ways. But what you failed to understand was that our youth, our chaos, our lack of rigid traditions, these were not weaknesses. They were strengths. Ashley gestured to the holographic display behind her, which showed images of hybrid children from across the galaxy. Our genetic flexibility is just one example. Because humans evolved quickly, under constantly changing conditions, we developed the ability to adapt. But adaptation is not just biological. It is also cultural, social, emotional. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of representatives from dozens of species. When the Jara Empire offered Princess Kira to Captain Bennett as an insult, they expected him to refuse or to accept with resentment. But he did neither. He accepted with grace and treated her with respect. That simple act of seeing value where others saw none changed the course of galactic history. Ashley's voice grew stronger. This is what humanity offers the galaxy, not just genetic compatibility, but the willingness to question old assumptions, the courage to see possibilities instead of limitations, the wisdom to value what others discard. These are the traits that allowed Captain Bennett to turn an insult into an alliance. These are the traits that revealed a biological truth the galaxy had missed. She concluded, humanity did not become important through military might or ancient wisdom. We became important by being open to new ideas, by treating others with respect regardless of their perceived status, and by refusing to accept that something is impossible just because it has never been done before. That is our gift. That is what we bring to the Council. And that is why the future belongs to all of us working together. The chamber erupted in applause. Even species that had initially been skeptical of humanity now stood and cheered. Kyle felt tears in his eyes. Ashley had perfectly captured what had happened and, more importantly, what it meant. That evening, Kyle and Kira took Maya to their favorite spot on the station, an observation deck that looked out over the stars. Maya was tired from the long day and sat quietly between her parents, looking at the endless expanse of space. "Mama, Papa," she said in her small voice. She pointed at the stars. "Which one is Earth? Which one is Jara?" Kyle pointed to different stars, showing her their homeworlds. "Both places are yours," he said. "You belong to both of them and to all the places in between." Maya thought about this seriously. "Then I belong to everywhere?" Kira smiled and hugged her daughter close. "Yes, my little star. You belong to everywhere, and everywhere is lucky to have you." Kyle looked out at the galaxy and thought about the journey they had taken. It had started with an insult, with cruelty meant to diminish and harm. But through patience and kindness, through respect and love, that insult had become something beautiful. It had become a bridge between worlds, a foundation for cooperation, and a symbol of hope for species across the galaxy. The Barren princess who had been mockingly given away had returned as a mother. But she had brought back more than a child. She had brought back proof that the galaxy's understanding of what was possible had been too limited. She had brought back evidence that kindness and respect could achieve what force and tradition could not. She had brought back hope. And in doing so, she had helped humanity find its true place among the stars, not as conquerors or as servants, but as partners and friends, not as the strongest or the smartest, but as the most adaptable and the most willing to see value in what others overlooked. As Maya fell asleep between them, safe and loved, Kyle and Kira knew that whatever challenges came next, they would face them together, and the galaxy would be there with them, learning slowly that the greatest strength was not in power or ancient wisdom, but in the simple willingness to treat each other with dignity and to believe in the impossible. The stars shone bright above them, and the future stretched out endless and full of possibilities. A new era had begun, built on the foundation of a cruel joke that had become the galaxy's greatest blessing, and at the heart of it all was a family that should not have existed, proving every day that love and respect could overcome any obstacle. This was humanity's true gift, not genetic compatibility, but the wisdom to see worth where others saw none, and that gift would echo across the stars for generations to come.